And now, Legal Perspective with Nick Clekis.
If you've ever watched Law & Order or CSI, you've probably heard the phrase Miranda rights. But what do these rights really mean, and why are they so important? Here to share her expertise on this week's Legal Perspective is Allie Menegakis, attorney with Clekis Law Firm. Allie, great to have you back with us today. What are Miranda rights, and where do they come from?
Well, Miranda rights are from a certain case, which I won't get into the details of the case at this point, but Miranda rights include your constitutional rights, right? So we've, like you said, if you've ever watched Law & Order or CSI and someone's getting arrested, a lot of times while they're getting arrested and handcuffed, you hear the officer saying, you have the right to remain silent, you have a right to an attorney, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and they go on and on and on. These are constitutional rights that you always have, but reading of the Miranda rights is only triggered if two things are happening. One, if you are in custody, and two, if you're being asked questions from a law enforcement officer.
So you hear people or cases that happen where someone was not read their Miranda rights and the case gets thrown out. Is that a common thing that happens, or is that kind of something that's been expanded and it's more of a...
No, I mean, it absolutely can happen. I've had it happen with a lot of cases. But I do think that there is a misconception when it comes to whether you need to be read your Miranda rights or not. I get a lot of clients that say, but he didn't read me my Miranda rights, so can't the case get thrown out? Well, no, it can't. Only if you felt that you weren't free to leave, you were in custody, or you felt like there were, let's say, a lot of law enforcement officers around you and the doors closed. You might not be in handcuffs, but you certainly don't feel free to leave. Yeah. So that would be considered a custodial interrogation if they're then asking you questions. So you have to be in custody or can't feel like you can't leave, and they have to be asking you questions. So if a cop, puts you in handcuffs, he doesn't read your Miranda rights, but then he doesn't ask you any questions, well, he doesn't need to read you your Miranda rights then. Yeah,
and with Miranda rights, I feel like a common consensus is that once you read your Miranda rights, that's when you stop speaking. But I feel now that it's becoming more clear that you should handle from the moment that you're approached. There's a certain way to go about that. How should we go about that?
Absolutely. I think it's so important for people to know what their constitutional rights are, including the ones that are included in Miranda rights. Let's say that I'm driving my car down the road and you, Taylor, come and drive up behind me, and then you kind of pull me over and I pull over. And you start asking me all these questions and you want to search my car. And why should I let you do that? Let's say I didn't know you, right? Why should I let someone do that to me? It's the same really with a law enforcement officer. A law enforcement officer, just because they're wearing a uniform, doesn't mean that you have to answer all their questions, or you have to do consent to searches of your vehicle, for example. You have constitutional rights that our forefathers made sure that we got, so use them. Let's say that you're pulled over by a law enforcement officer on the road, and he starts asking you all these questions. A lot of my clients say, well, do I have to answer that question? No, you don't really have to answer any questions from law enforcement. Really, the only thing that you have to do when it comes to traffic stops is you have to provide your driver's license. You have to show that you're registered. You have to provide your insurance information, because those are some of the things that we consent to when we drive a vehicle on the roads here. But other than that, if an officer starts asking you, where are you coming from tonight? Where are you going? What do you got in the back seat? What's going on over here? What I would do, and what I encourage people to do, is to clarify what the situation is. Officer, am I free to leave right now? Am I being detained? Am I being arrested? Because if the answer is, yeah, I'm free to leave, then I want to leave, right? If the answer is, no, you're being detained, then a lot of people, their response should be, if they don't want to answer those questions, well, I'm not going to answer any questions. I want a lawyer, and I'm not consenting to any searches today.
This is why having legal counsel or we feel so lucky to be able to talk to you and learn all of this wonderful information that is not something that's talked about as often as it should be. You have a nonprofit. Can you quickly tell us about it?
Yeah, so my nonprofit is South Carolina for Criminal Justice Reform. We are a nonprofit and we focus on bringing education and awareness to lay people that aren't lawyers to know what their rights are. And we are really focusing on reducing mass incarceration on a larger scale. And you can check us out on sc4cjr.org.
Wonderful, Allie. And of course, if you want to get in touch with Allie and Clekis Law Firm, 8439 is where you can go. Allie, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Pleasure.
We're back in 2 minutes.
This has been Legal Perspective with Nick Clekis.